Attention all busy bees and condo dwellers. Are you struggling to keep up with your cleaning chores? Introducing the Cleaning Coach, your ultimate solution for all your cleaning needs. They are not just your ordinary cleaning service, they are your multi-service cleaning experts ready to tackle any cleaning challenge that comes our way. From general cleaning to specialized services like mattress and sofa deep cleaning, aircon cleaning, car cleaning, and so much more, the Cleaning Coach has got you covered. They take pride in delivering trustworthy, reliable, and spotless cleaning results every time. We understand that condo living can be fast-paced, leaving you with limited time to handle your cleaning tasks. That's where the Cleaning Coach comes in. Let the Cleaning Coach take care of your cleaning woes while you focus on the things that matter most to you. Sit back, relax, and let their team of skilled professionals work their magic to create a pristine living space for you. But wait, there's more. As a special offer for all you podcast listeners out there, we have an exclusive deal just for you. Mention the letters T and E when confirming your appointment through chat and get a fantastic 5% off on your first booking. It's our way of saying thank you for choosing the Cleaning Coach. Booking with them is a breeze. You can reach them through their social media platforms at The Cleaning Coach Rocks on Instagram or Facebook. Alternatively, you can give them a call at 0917-531-7769 or shoot them an email at thecleaningcoach@yahoo.com. Their friendly team will guide you through the booking process, answering any questions you may have. Remember, the rates are determined by the services rendered and the total size of the area or item to be cleaned. They offer transparent pricing, ensuring that you receive the best value for your money. Don't let cleaning stress you out any longer. Let the Cleaning Coach be your go-to cleaning partner. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the pristine environment we create just for you. Book with them today and experience the ultimate cleaning transformation. Hi everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Navs Effect Podcast. Before we get to the main topic of the podcast, we did a Transformers Rise of the Beast episode review along with my friends Glenmarc / Antonio, who has been in this podcast quite a few times. You guys have seen him, but also a newcomer to the podcast, Mr. Jason in Ascension. Now, Jason and Flash are two guys I watch movies with in movie premieres, particularly in SM Cinemas. Recently, we got to watch Transformers, so we talked about that a little bit. Fun movie, and I'm excited for all of you to hear our thoughts about it. Now, before we get started, though, I just want to share some quick thoughts in the game that concluded this morning, Saturday, June 10, Miami-Denver Game 4. The Nuggets win, beating the Heat in dominant fashion again, taking a 3-1 series lead and pushing the Heat to the brink of elimination and pushing Denver to the brink of winning their first NBA championship in franchise history. Very impressive win by Denver. You know, Jokic and Murray didn't play so well. I mean, they played good. Like, Murray had 10 assists for the fourth straight game to start his NBA Finals career, which is a record, 10 assists in each game. Jokic was, he's always going to be good. He wasn't as dominant as he was in game 3, but he was still pretty good. But it was really the role guys who stepped up today for Denver. Aaron Gordon, 27 points in 11 of 15. Michael Porter, 11 points in 4 of 10 shooting. Bruce Brown, 21 points and 8 of 11 off the bench. And the part where I thought this game really slipped away from Miami was in the fourth quarter. So Jokic picks up his fifth foul on a move which I would say was a good flop by Bam Adebayo to pick up Jokic's fifth foul. And I think there were about 8 minutes left. And then Miami cuts the lead to 5. Jimmy completes an N1 play. And each time Miami tried to go on a run after that, Denver had an answer. Like Jamal Murray hit the 3. Aaron Gordon made a shot. Bruce Brown had some attacks of the rim. And the ball movement, teamwork, everything Denver was doing was so precise, so good, exactly what you'd expect out of a championship team. And that's why even without their best player on the court, the best player in the world, they were still able to respond to Miami and keep Miami at bay and stay in control of the game. And right now, it's also just to add to that, 16 turnovers from Miami. They shot just 32%, 8 of 25 from downtown. And Jimmy Butler was okay at 25 points and 9 of 17 shooting, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. But he wasn't like nuclear Jimmy, the guy that we saw against like the Bucks. By the way, Bam Adebayo 20 points, 11 rebounds, but he had 7 of those 14 Miami turnovers. So 14 turnovers all in all for Miami. Actually, Kevin Love played well too. Gabe Vincent 1 of 6, Max Drew 0 of 4. Duncan Robinson was great, 5 of 7. And he's really made the case to earn more minutes in this series. Caleb Martin was okay, 5 of 12, 11 points. Kyle Lowry, 13 points, 7 assists, 3 of 7, about what you'd expect from Kyle at this point of his career. Yeah, it's tough. A lot of Denver's strengths, the size, the ball movement, the playmaking from the big man, top of the key, just takes advantage of Miami's weak points, which is their lack of an interior defensive presence, their lack of size, which can make them susceptible to rebounds. Even if Miami won rebounding today, they got crushed in rebounding in game three. And Denver just capitalizes on the weak points of Miami. Now, if Miami was shooting better from three this last two games at home, then maybe it goes a little differently. But see, that's the variance right there. And that's how much Miami relies on 3-point shooting. And unless Jimmy goes off, and we know Jimmy's ankle hasn't been the same since he injured it in game one against the Knicks when Josh Hart accidentally stepped on it. He was going crazy before that. Since then, he's still been pretty good, but he hasn't been like incredible Jimmy. But that's not to take away from what Denver did. Denver was awesome. Denver got the job done, and now they're one win away from winning the championship. Now, Miami's at their best when their backs are against the wall. That's been the case all season long, all playoffs long. So that's why I don't think they're going to roll over easily and allow Denver to win easily in game five. That doesn't mean Miami's going to win for sure, because it's not going to be easy to win in that place, even if Miami did in game two. But, Spoelstra after the game was saying the goal is to just get one and bring the series back to Miami, try to tie it, force a game seven winner take all. And it's a daunting task. It's going to be very difficult. Now, is Miami incapable of doing it? They're capable of doing it, because I think at this point we have to give them the benefit of the doubt that when they're counted out, they find a way to really step back up and get back in the mix. But this would be the toughest challenge they would have had to overcome yet. This Denver team is so good. They do everything the right way. They have superstars. They have good coaching. They play well on both ends of the floor. I thought their defense this last two games, really staying close to shooters, factored into the bad shooting percentage of Miami from deep, and also their willingness to kind of like play Jimmy one-on-one on defense with guys like Caldwell Pope, Aaron Gordon guarding him. It's made it difficult for Jimmy, especially with that ankle not 100%. And Bam hasn't exactly been consistent with his offense too. His shooting from the field hasn't been that great. You can't take too much away from Miami. They are an 8 seed after all, and this is an improbable run. Now, it is still quite disappointing if you're a Heat fan, of course, because going down 1-3, and now they have lost 4 straight games at home dating back to the Eastern Conference Finals this season. They lost games 4 and 6 in Miami against Boston. They just lost games 3 and 4 in Miami against Denver. They also lost 3 out of their 4 home games in Miami last year's Eastern Conference Finals against Boston. And then dating back to 2014, they also lost games 3 and 4 at home in the NBA Finals against San Antonio. So that Miami hasn't exactly been a stellar home court advantage in the big games that really matter as of late, and that's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. It's not easy, and at a certain point when you're in like a Cinderella magical run, like what the Heat were at, you just kind of expect everything's always going to work out, because they get through Milwaukee, they get through New York, they blow a 3-0 lead against Boston, find a way to win in game seven, then they win game two on the road against Denver, and you come home and you're thinking, oh, okay, they just need to win one of these two games, and they'll win one more in Denver, and then they'll win a championship. And, that Cinderella runs, that's why most of the time they ultimately come to an end. And again, look, there's still one more game to play at the least, and Denver has to win one more game, and we know Miami's not going to make it easy. If the Heat somehow pull this off, it would certify this playoff run as the greatest playoff run ever, in my opinion, especially considering that they're an 8 seed. But it's not going to be easy, and chances are it's probably not going to happen. So let's maybe look a little bit towards what the Heat can do if they do end up losing the series. Damian Lillard has already been out there on the record saying that he would like to come to Miami if he were to switch teams. And I think this Lillard-Portland marriage is bound for an inevitable split, given where Dame is at in his career and where Portland might be in terms of building their franchise. So hypothetically, let's say the Heat package a deal like Hero, picks, Lowry, maybe a player or two you add there, and you get Dame and maybe a filler or two. Like Dame, Jimmy, Bam. Is that a trio that could possibly lead you back to the NBA Finals next year? Maybe give you a better shot against a team like Denver to win the championship? 100%. Because the Heat sure as hell could have used Damian Lillard in games 3 and 4 while Gabe Vincent was missing all over the place. The Heat's defense is elite. It suffers when the offense goes through their putrid rough stretches, which it's been doing a lot, and you have to credit Denver's defense for making that happen. But definitely, the concept of maybe adding Dame Lillard to this mix, having just another solid offensive weapon who you can book for an easy 20, 25 points a night in a playoff game. Now that's crucial. When you imagine all the handoff between Bam and Dame, right? But look, there's one more game, like I said, at least to be played about this series. I think by winning the 2 games in Miami, that Denver secured this championship, and kudos to them. They deserve it. Denver, to me, has the markings of this generation's Tim Duncan San Antonio Spurs teams. And Murray, Jokic, that could be like a Parker / Manu, Tim dynamic. Then you've got the role players like just really complementing the rest of the guys. So kudos to the Nuggets. They have been incredible. They deserve this. And for the Heat, well, nothing to be ashamed about. Of course, a second defeat in 4 years in the NBA Finals. It's a tough pill to swallow. It really is. But hey, you just got to go down swinging in the series. See if you can find a way to maybe get this back to Miami. Take it 1 game at a time. What was it Marcus Smart said again in the Celtics? Don't let us get one. Well, they need to have the attitude right now. And if things eventually end up in the downside of the series, which again, like I said, it looks likely it might happen. Well, time to look forward to next year, and we'll see where it goes from there. All right, let's get into the episode about Transformers.
Are you looking for a betting platform with zero restrictions and where you can buy crypto using PHP directly? Look no further than DexWin. The platform is designed to make it easy for you to buy and sell your favorite cryptocurrencies using Philippine pesos with low fees and a user-friendly interface. But that's not all. DexWin also offers you the opportunity to bet on your favorite NBA games and superstars in the playoffs and mix and match parlays to win big. Whether you're a seasoned sports bettor or just starting out, they have everything you need to make the most of your wagers. And with their instant withdrawals, you can quickly and easily get your money when you need it. When you're withdrawing your winnings from sports betting, they make it fast and easy. So what are you waiting for? Join DexWin today and start taking advantage of all the benefits they have to offer.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Navs Effect podcast. Today, we are about to talk about Transformers Rise of the Beast. Now, a little backstory. Jason, one of my guests today, a newcomer on this Navs Effect podcast, and Glenmarc, who I'm sure many of you who have been listening to the podcast are well aware of right now, because he's been a guest for a lot of movies, pop culture, and whatnot over the last few months. So we are going to discuss Rise of the Beast, the latest Transformers movie, a sequel to the Bumblebee movie, which is part of the new Transformers franchise reboot that started a few years ago. In fact, I believe there are going to be 3 more movies after Rise of the Beast, if I'm not mistaken, as announced by Michael Bay. And we were able to catch it last Tuesday. We're recording this Friday, June 9. On Tuesday, we were able to watch the movie. Of course, major shout out and a thank you to SM Cinemas for providing the premiere tickets, the invite. It's always a pleasure, always a fun time. And if you guys are looking for somewhere great to watch a movie, I always recommend SM in IMAX, in 3D, whatever you need. Masarap ang popcorn, masarap ang drinks, go to SM Cinemas. And, we actually watched this movie on 3D, and I have to admit, that was my first time in a long time. Definitely since before
Same.
the pandemic, watching a
Same.
movie in 3D, wearing 3D goggles. So, the first 15-20 minutes of the film, I had like an adjustment period to it.
Yeah.
I'm like toggling around with the goggles, seeing
Yeah.
what's comfortable, taking it out, wiping the front kasi medyo may smudge na ng konti. But overall, fun experience. I enjoyed the Transformers movie. My quick thoughts, top of my head. If you're looking for like deep conversations, heartfelt, sentimental moments, this might not be the movie for you. That's not to say that the script writing wasn't good or the dialogue wasn't good. There were some parts a little cheesy, a little cliche-ish, but look, the beauty of Transformers has always been the carnage or the battles between alien robots just bringing out all these powers and all these abilities and fighting for the good of Cybertron or something new. But for this movie, well, this isn't something new, but they were fighting for the protection of the world, the planet, which is common in Transformers movies. Now, I guess that's top of the head. Those are my thoughts. Dialogue was okay. Action, graphics, effects, the process with which vehicles turn into transformers. The comedy was pretty good too. So those are areas that I thought was pretty impressive. How about you guys?
Yes.
Well, for me, okay, I'm older than you guys, so I was the target market for the original Transformers in the early mid 80s. So when it came out, I actually had Transformers toys before they were absorbed into the Transformers universe when they were still Diaclone. I had a Starscream na Diaclone toy by Takara, which had a little pilot that was put inside the ship. So when all became absorbed by the Transformers, I had a lot of Transformers as a toy. A lot. I still have some actually at home. I still have Gen 1 Optimus Prime. I still have Gen 1 Shockwave and Metroplex. I kept those even when we moved houses. So, I was that generation that was shattered in 1986 when the first animated movie killed off Optimus Prime. So, with the first live action Transformers with Michael Bay, I was ecstatic. I was so happy because parang they got it right, and it progressively got worse over the course of the next few movies under Michael Bay because it seems like if you gave him a budget, he would destroy everything and he'd overblown everything. But this one, like Bumblebee before it, was really good. I think the director Stephen Caple Jr. He exercised restraint. He didn't go for explosions just for the sake of explosions. They stuck with the story. There was a plot. There was the introduction of a main baddie from way back that his specter was looming over this franchise, even from the last night, which was the pre Bumblebee. For me, as long as you keep Peter Cullen in there as Optimus Prime, that's always a plus. And this wasn't as cheesy anymore. There's no Mark Wahlberg here. There's no Shia LaBeouf. It's a whole new batch of humans. I think moving the action from the big cities and instead moving it to a place as far off as Peru, that was a welcome change. It brought a sense of the scale of it. It's more of a global event, and of course that big revelation at the end is what blew my mind the most. But I won't touch that. That's it for me for the moment, Naveen.
Flash here. So, hi everyone. So for me, the movie was actually para ano siya, like for a lot of collectors. So obviously, Transformers is a toy franchise with a whole slew of media that supports it. Like you have comic books, you have cartoons, you have animated series, everything. And so for a lot of collectors, a lot of people were a bit apprehensive about having the Maximals join the Autobots for this particular movie. So without spoiling anything, quick backstory: they're not in the same show ever. They haven't been in the same show, I think, up until obviously the highly successful release of Beast Wars. And then we've never seen them in a live action film until Rise of the Beasts. Never. And they made it work. That's what that got me. So as a fan of the Transformers, I'm a G1 fan. My favorite Autobot is actually Wheeljack. And seeing them all in one frame, like the Autobots and the Maximals, and having been able to watch, I'm gonna date myself. Having been able to watch Beast Wars on Studio 23. So, which
Studio 23, shout out,
yeah,
the old
shout out
school.
to Studio 23. So since they're no longer on air, it was such a treat. I have to agree with Jason that they were able to ground the movie. It's not as Bay-esque, with all of the explosions and all. Obviously, they still have a lot of, robot fights and whatever. And I would also have to mention early on that the soundtrack, and along with all the other guys that we were watching during the premiere, they were able to really give props to. They were able to set the timeline by the soundtrack alone, which they already started with the first Bumblebee movie. So like you're listening to the 80s. And so this one, you're in the 90s without so much as like a 90s outfit. It was just because of the 90s soundtrack really blasting throughout the entire movie. So really happy with that.
LaSalle fans and Animo supporters, the crown is back in Taft. Now is the best time to secure the most incredible DLSU merchandise in the market to celebrate the Lady Spikers title conquest of Season 85. Green-Blooded Championship t-shirt is something you do not want to miss out on. It comes in 3 different colors with the name of each champion spiker on the back.
names that will be remembered forever. What better way to celebrate this unforgettable season? So visit Green Blooded on Shopee now and show off your animo spirit. Nice.
It was
Okay.
really entertaining.
Okay. So
Grabe yung Diggable Planets when they brought in Rebirth of Slake. Oh man, that was
Yeah.
awesome. That was an awesome moment. Ten, ten. Oh god, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
favorite parts of the movie. For me, Mirage was one of the highlights. I love the comedic aspect. Of course, Mirage was voiced by, if I'm not mistaken, Pete Davidson,
Yep.
who is used to, comedy and making people laugh. And ang sobrang benta lang ng lines niya. I thought the timing was so good. And, towards the end, right, there's a certain scene during the climax where there's an emotional side of it too. And I thought that was super awesome. I also like that, again, I think this is a second straight movie. Bumblebee didn't have Megatron as well as the big bad, right? So, for those who did watch the Michael Bay movies, such as myself, na medyo naumay na ako kay Megatron at a certain point. Now, you're seeing like deeper, more characters into this Transformer universe. Because see, I didn't collect the toys, or I would watch the cartoons in passing as a kid, but I don't think I was as much of a diehard as many of the franchise's fans, possibly even like you guys, no? But definitely the new bad guy, Scourge, was an awesome antagonist for me.
Yep.
And I like the concept of having this big bad in Unicron, who I don't think we've seen the last of. Minor spoiler alert there. And it was nice. It was just nice to see different layers to the Transformers universe that maybe fans who aren't diehard aficionados like myself can learn more. And that would draw like a new crowd to perhaps watch the movies. Seeing new Transformers, the Maximals who would turn into these animal figures, whether that's a gorilla or a cheetah or a rhino or whatever else. That, again, like I said, it added a new layer to the franchise and it just makes it more interesting, makes it a little more complex, and doesn't leave the feeling of, something that's just simple that I had like watching the original Transformer movies in the mid 2000s and 2010s, because at a certain point, the first two movies were really nice, and then at a certain point it kind of staled for me.
Yep.
But now I think because they're adding like deeper layers in terms of character progression and availability, I think that's going to add some more excitement for the upcoming movies. I thought this wasn't a superb movie, but I thought it was pretty good. Like if I paid 400 or 500 pesos to watch this in theater, I wouldn't feel guilty after. I would have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I think the room to grow is only going to get better. And we're going to talk about that later when we discuss the mid-credit scene.
All right. Well, for me, a big plus also was the voice cast. As you mentioned, Naveen, as far as with Scourge, having Peter Dinklage voice him, that was a brilliant move because Peter Dinklage, as a lot of us know him from Game of Thrones as Tyrion Lannister, the Imp, and here just the big voice that he had can carry being one of the main villains. Having Ron Perlman, who is we all know as Hellboy, he's Optimus Primal, and Michelle Yeoh as Air Razor. Those are also brilliant moves. Having an Asian actress voicing this Falcon, that robot Falcon. Galing. I mean, this is the Michelle Yeoh Renaissance right now because she just won her Oscar. With the addition of Pete Davidson, again, I've never really found Pete Davidson funny, even though I'm a big Saturday Night Live fan, because for me, it just didn't work for me. But here, the lines he was
Sorry,
given.
Jason, quick thought. You know who
Yeah.
finds Pete Davidson funny though? All the girls he apparently gets to
Yeah,
date.
I know. That's true. That is true, Naveen. Sabi nga nila, BDE. But we won't go into that. But he was there was more interaction between the humans and Pete Davidson here, while usually it's the interaction between humans and Bumblebee, or the humans and Prime. So a big plus for me was seeing like a younger version of Optimus Prime, Peter Cullen, who didn't exactly trust humans at this point. This is 1994, and from this soft reboot, as Glenmarc mentioned, it seems that they had just landed and they were very wary of trusting humans. He was more concerned about protecting his Autobots, his group, the squad under him, while we're so used to seeing Optimus Prime being selfless and protecting humans. Here, this is a younger version who just doesn't trust them as much. So that was refreshing change for me.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
if I may add a little side note for those who are yet to watch. Again, like if you're listening to this podcast and you are like on the fence on watching it or like spending money, and then you do decide to actually buy a ticket. If you actually notice the unmasked version of Optimus Prime, he actually looks more like Peter Cullen here. So the lines on the face of Optimus when he like removes his like face shield, his mouth shield, he actually looks like Peter Cullen. The design was actually a nod to make him look like, and so it's forever just to reinforce the idea that Jason mentioned. Like Peter Cullen is forever Optimus Prime. Like you cannot take that away from the guy as much as like let's say Larry Kinney is Lion O
Yeah,
for the
no,
Thundercats.
that's right. Yeah.
So that's one point. And then I just have to add one item there. More than anything, as much as you're watching a Transformers movie, right? And like when a new big Transformers movie comes out, it's almost automatic for any fan of pop culture to just say, you know what, good or bad, I'm gonna watch it because
Yep.
Yeah.
of course FOMO, diba? So like fear of missing
Yeah.
out. But it's a Transformers movie, so it's almost like drop everything. We have plans for Saturday night or something. But this one with like you're watching a movie about big giant robots transforming into either a vehicle or an animal form. There's also a big focus on the human side, so like I would
Mm.
say there's like 50-50, because before it's really just 70% robots, 30% humans, and then 30% humans is dominated by a face character, like
Yeah.
Shia and like let's say Mark Wahlberg. But in
Wahlberg.
this one, you don't really know much about the human actors. Like me personally, I don't know them a lot from other shows, but
Same.
it was really
Same.
nice that they split time, having all of these robots on screen talking to each other, and then them interacting with humans, and then humans interacting with fellow humans. So that was really good.
Yeah, definitely. Now, speaking of the human characters, no, that's one aspect I wanted to get to. Noah Diaz, who is the protagonist, played by Anthony Ramos, who is, I think, relatively new, unless you've been following Broadway.
Yeah.
He was okay to me. I mean, not to say that he had a bad performance. I just felt like there
He looked
was.
like a Wayan's brother na Latino, Naveen.
Yes, yes,
Now
yes.
that you say it, yeah.
I think the delivery of some lines from him though just it was good, but it also felt like very scripted. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know
Mm.
how much of his lines were made up in the moment or maybe had some creativity to it. Although that's not to say
Mm.
he had a bad performance, because I thought that in terms of his look when it comes to Transformers movies about mechanics and oil spitting out instead of blood
Yeah.
and machinery, he was not bad. Now the two characters who I thought were really good, one first was his little brother,
Yeah.
Yeah.
played by, let's see,
Chris.
yes,
Dean
Dean
Scott Vasquez.
Scott Vasquez plays Chris, who I thought was awesome, especially that part where he basically threatens Mirage, like, if you don't take
Yeah.
care of my brother, I'm coming after
Yeah.
you. And it was
Yeah.
like so cool.
A
Uh,
little shout out. That little kid will wear, non-spoiler, a Power Rangers t-shirt. And so
Oh.
we have this friend, Chris Cantada, who's also known as Cantada Force, who's been producing Power Rangers content for the longest time. Former drummer of Sponge Cola.
oh,
So it's a Chris in a Power Rangers shirt in 1994. Where have I heard that before? So shout out to Chris
nice.
Cantada. Like you've always represented Power Rangers well, which is also a Hasbro franchise. That's why they snuck that in. Obviously, there are
Yeah.
a lot of Hasbro franchise sneak-ins, by the way. So yeah,
Oh,
Power
so
Rangers
so
is one. This is
are you telling me we're gonna get a Power Rangers Transformers?
I
Crossover.
wouldn't put it past that, because you have Megazords. That's still a big giant robot. You still
Okay.
have Transformers.
Speaking of Hasbro, there's another toy franchise that might
Yeah,
make.
I won't touch on
Yeah.
that yet, but yeah, just a little shout out on that, because like again, the little kid really brought heart into it, because
Yes,
remember,
Yeah.
yes.
like as much as like we have the purchasing power to buy tickets, this is still made to entertain kids.
Attention sports enthusiasts and loyal Ateneo fans. The peak of excitement may have settled after the UAAP season, but your support for Team Ateneo should never waver. Show your unwavering spirit by proudly donning your favorite Get Blued merchandise. We have amazing news for you. You can now find the most extensive selection of authentic Ateneo gear at both Shopee Mall and Laz Mall. Gear up and embrace the blue and white pride with Get Blued's top-notch apparel. And remember, always buy original.
This is the whole
Yes.
point. It's still
Listen,
made to entertain, like,
Well, I don't know
8-year-olds.
I don't know if I would want like my 6 or 7-year-old son to see the certain scenes from that movie, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Maybe like
Yeah.
maybe a teenager. I would say that's a PG-13 movie more than a GP movie though.
Yeah, yeah.
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 Because there's a lot of they disguise it as oil or it's green stuff, but it's basically robot blood.
Yeah.
I mean,
Robot guts.
at a certain point, you don't want your kid hearing something like, "I am going to take his head." Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
but
going to kill you.
I am
I'm
gonna
going to
burn
end
you.
your life.
Yeah.
No. But like one more person who I thought was awesome was Dominic Fishback, who played Elena
Yeah.
Wallace.
Elena.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's actually my next point. I thought that she didn't get as much screen time as I thought she deserved. And that's because I thought her character was very interesting. She really had the answers to everything. She even had the answers that some Transformers didn't know. And
Mm.
like what Flash said about Chris, the little brother of Noah, who was the heart of the movie. I thought Elena also played that role in
And
terms
it
of
didn't feel
yeah,
also that it was diversity for the sake of diversity, guys,
yeah,
diba? It
yeah.
felt like they're just regular characters that
Yep,
it,
yep.
it was organic. It wasn't
Yeah.
forced.
Yeah.
The diverse multicultural stuff in New York. These guys are in Brooklyn, so there's a black lady there. There's
Melting pot
there's
yun.
Latino siblings. So
Yeah.
yeah, it didn't feel forced
Someone
that
eating
way.
Twizzlers all day, all night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
But with Elena, I thought if there is going to be like a next part of this movie, which I think there will be, I'd like to see her maybe have a bigger role, just because I like the concept of someone playing like an Indiana Jones kind of role in the Transformers world. Someone knowledgeable about these artifacts. Maybe add layers of complexity and like education to the Transformers lore, which I know is kind of weird because this is like a fictional movie, but I think that just adds like a fun little dynamic to it.
Yeah.
And to add to that, Naveen, I like that she was knowledgeable. Like you said, she was knowledgeable. She was smarter than her boss at the museum.
Yeah.
She obviously cared more about research and being accurate as far as the historical aspect, while her boss was just for the glam. And she was the one who pieced together the clues that led to finding that artifact. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'd like to see her maybe get more lines, and I'd like to see her kind of have relationship with the certain Transformers more. Not to say that
Yeah.
again, Noah Diaz didn't have a great time or didn't do well. I just think maybe you can diversify it a little more
I
moving
I
forward.
can actually see her having like this fun banter with RC. Or like if they actually introduce like, let's say, Elita 1 or something. Or,
Oh,
like
bigat yun.
you could have like this girl thing,
Yeah.
thing with, so plus of course you can only cram so much in a 2 hour and a half movie. Like in
Yeah.
fact, even some of the Autobots didn't have a lot of like talk time.
Yeah, the
I was
Maximals barely spoke aside from Air
Yeah.
Razor and Optimus Primal.
I was
Yep.
pleasantly surprised David Sobolov was actually Rhinox. He was actually the voice of Grodd in The Flash.
Mm.
So like that big booming voice. He was actually the voice actor for Rhinox. But again, not a lot
Rod,
of
not
the
like banana.
yeah. So not a lot of them were able to have like really good lines, but I agree. And since this is just probably the first chapter of a multi-chapter, universe spanning adventure, I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing more of Elena down the road. And I'm really crossing fingers that she would have her own Transformers buddy. And I'm really seeing like RC or Elita 1 or even Bumblebee. But like if you want to like give Bumblebee a little bit of a breather, I can see RC and Elena having a fun time. And then her riding the motorcycle with the
Here,
helmet.
and guys, you already noticed here, Bumblebee kind of had his breather. That's why the focus was on
Yeah,
Mirage.
so
Yeah.
Of
that's
course,
the
Bumblebee
side.
still had his big moment at the end, but having Mirage there and the Pete Davidson, who was very talkative and
Yeah,
interacting with the siblings, that was very noticeable for me that they had Bumblebee kind of take a step back.
Right.
yeah.
And also just one more point about Elena. It's not easy to be the female read when you're following Haley Steinfeld from the last movie. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
Agreed, agreed.
that is not an easy task. And I thought she did a pretty good job. And let's see what else other talent she has. Now, okay, let's talk about that mid-credit scene.
Ah,
So spoiler
what
alert
did
for
Freddy
those
say?
who haven't watched it yet. It looks like by the first of all, great House of Cards guesting appearance there. That was awesome. Dog for life, except that last season where things just went to shit. But so it looks like we are going to get a GI Joe Transformers cross.
I should have
Now,
pulled out my GI Joe comic. It's like somewhere here.
now, I think that both of you have more history with the GI Joe and Transformers franchises, not just
Yeah.
because of your age, guys. Just
I'll
saying.
claim it. I'll claim it because of my age, Nabil. I'll claim it because of my age. Yeah.
Okay, so with that said, has there been like a crossover of sorts already before between Transformers and GI Joe, and what can we expect moving forward as this hits the big screen?
Okay.
Because
JC, ikaw muna.
I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you, the GI Joe movie franchise from a few years ago, I didn't like that so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Yeah.
kind of you know.
Okay. I was talking with Sina Glenn about this right after the scene happened. Like I said earlier, I was the target market for Transformers. I was also the target market for GI Joe in the early to mid 80s. Back when Marvel was publishing GI Joe and Transformers comics, there was already a limited series where they had the crossover, the GI Joe Transformers. That blew my mind. I don't have those comics anymore, yeah, because hindi ko naalagaan. But it's happened before. It's happened also with Dreamwave and some other publishers. I believe IDW has done it.
Yeah.
It's
Mirage.
always an interesting
Mm.
concept because these two huge, massive global toy franchises crossing over, but I never really dreamed that it would happen in live action. So when that revelation happened, napasigaw ako. I was two seats beside Glenn and sabi ko, huh? I was literally speechless. And that hasn't happened to me in a movie in a really long time. I don't recall the
Yeah.
last time it happened to me, but the four of us who were seated beside each other with Jiggy and Nikki and Glenn, we were all like, paano na to? You were flabbergasted to say the least.
Ako, I'll speak from the point of view. Buhat na ako sariling bangko. I'm the co-founder of the longest running and one of the oldest GI Joe collector groups in the entire country. So that's Toy Soldier 180. I'm a co-founder of that. We're actually celebrating our like 20th anniversary. It's the biggest online group of GI Joe collectors in the Philippines. That's one of my parang crowning glories, I would say. And so as a big collector, and I still have my GI Joe collection, as much as I love Transformers, I'm a bigger GI Joe fan than probably, most of my franchises, except probably for DC's The Flash and Lord of the Rings. But speaking from a collector and a big GI Joe fan, following, GI Joe comics and all that, I never realized it would happen in my lifetime because it's a bit daunting because both of them have very huge universes and lores, and it makes total sense to happen now because like we already have the technology for it.
Yep.
They already tried it. If you actually see the Josh Duhamel and Tyrese interaction, that's already a preview of like from the old Bayverse movie when Josh Duhamel was like a sergeant with Tyrese, and Tyrese was providing comedic relief, and then they had like Optimus dying or something. But that was already a preview of how GI Joe and Transformers would actually look like. But more than anything, now is actually the perfect time, especially because the GI Joe franchise is a bit floundering. Even toy sales, they haven't really pushed for the 3 and 3/4 scale action figures right now. They have like bigger action figures. But before I go like ape on that topic, we were so happy. It's just something that you cannot imagine. Like you have a bunch of titos and titas sprinkled across the IMAX rows. Everybody was like either what or like, yo,
What just happened?
yo, what just happened? And like, and a bunch of other expletives that we
Yeah.
cannot say on air.
Oh,
But
you can say it if you want to.
fuck. As in, and it's not concentrated in one area. Obviously, it was a bit louder in ours because I had like Jiggy and Jason. Nikki was just like, I wasn't born yet,
Yeah.
during that time. But I was also like on my other side, I was also with Meow's also a big 80s fan, a big 80s collector. And you have this splattering of like shouting. And it's not just so much as like a premiere where you have celebrities and you have vloggers and you have influencers. Like you have legit fans, shout out to Gino Quillamor, Chris Cantada, yung like from the community who are just really huge fans, and everybody was shouting. And it was such a nice moment. It was such a fun moment. And I really hope that they make good with this particular crossover down the line. Kasi syempre, the hype is there. And then the hype is super real because all of these people have capacity to buy multiple tickets to multiple screenings and action figures than any merch that they would probably produce, toys and statues and whatever. So it's just really so fun. But I agree with you. Just to bring everything down to earth muna, just to ground everything, I have to agree with Naveen that the last couple of G.I. Joe films haven't been so stellar. As much as Larry Hama, I'm sorry, I love you, Larry. Larry is like the father, like he's the creator of all these file cards. As much as he loves supporting all of the Hasbro released films, they haven't really made a mark. Even with the recent Henry Golding Snake Eyes movie.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was really sad.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
But like I was hyping it early on, but when I watched it, I was like, oh man, that was such a disappointment. Like I really hope that when they actually reboot, because Bumblebee was already a soft reboot.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like,
but that was a great decision to reboot that, right?
Oh yeah, through Bumblebee.
Yep.
Not through Optimus. That was
Yep.
genius with Travis Knight. They made the reboot through Bumblebee. And I would imagine it was like, you would have to have big cojones to talk to Paramount and say like, I'm gonna reboot everything that Michael made it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go through B, not through Prime.
I feel like the concept of rebooting now is just like so tempting, right? To many production houses.
About it.
In part because you get a fresh start and you kind of like go through plans, especially for new directors, without maybe the strings of the last movie kind of influencing you.
Yeah.
That makes sense also. I mean, right now, there's already there are already rumors that they want to reboot some of the stuff in Marvel. They want to reboot some of the stuff in DC, which is, it seems constantly in flux as far as reboots. And since Glenn and I are big comics guys, like you mentioned earlier, rebooting it's been done in comics since basically 1986. It's like a cycle, an endless cycle of retcons and reboots, and it's kind of frustrating because for a lot of us who value continuity, retconning is just that retroactive continuity, and parang, so what's the point of that timeline if they're just gonna keep rebooting, diba? At the same time, you get what the movie, the production houses want to do because these are money-making franchises, guys, diba? So that's still at the bottom line. They wanna reboot for the sake of, maybe if we fix this, we can have more sequels and they're gonna make more money for us. Ayun.
Yeah.
Can we reboot the recent Star Wars movies? The last 3 episodes.
That is
they can.
Episodes 7 to 9. Can we just erase it from existence and just pretend like it never happened again?
They're kind of doing soft reboots also with a TV show like Andor. Which is
awesome.
Almost,
Andor is awesome.
The beauty of Andor is it is Star Wars, but it almost doesn't feel like Star Wars. You don't see any Jedi, you don't see any lightsabers, you basically don't see any of the Force happening. But that's brilliant. At the same time, it's happening while shows like Ahsoka is coming back, and you have a Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. So there are that ecosystem is so huge that they can make that happen. All of it is under the Disney umbrella, the Fox umbrella. So yeah, they can do it, but I don't know. That's way above our pay grade as far as getting this stuff rebooted, if ever. Recently, Mark Hamill has already said that he's done with Luke Skywalker. He's
I don't
moving
blame
on.
him. I don't blame him with
Yeah,
the way
yeah.
they treated his character.
But yeah, with that same interview that I saw over the weekend, he also, the interviewer said, but I'm sure, if people aren't done with you as Luke Skywalker, it's like, yeah, well, but he's already 71.
Yep.
But I'm always gonna say that there's still adventures that you can tell, if not just for Luke, maybe these other Jedi who were underground during the time of the Empire.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
I've been playing Jedi Survivor on PlayStation recently, and I am more enamored with the story of that than I was the recent Star Wars movies on the big screen. And one of my hot takes, not to make this too much of a Star Wars conversation, is that maybe we're at the point where Star Wars is better off on the small screen rather than the big screen. Because if this is
Yeah.
such a huge universe they're trying to tell stories about, then perhaps having more time on the small
Yeah.
screen to really develop those stories, like Andor, could
Yeah.
do better for the franchise than trying to fit everything in a 2 hour, 2.5 hour period.
Yeah,
But
that's completely true, Naveen. I
yes.
completely agree with that as far as more time given. So you're not forced to cram everything into a
Ex-
2 hour or 3 hour experience there.
Exactly. Like, wait, Palpatine is alive? Like that again? He's back? Oh, okay. But yeah, let's go back to Transformers to end this podcast. I think on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe you could each give it a score. I'm going to go first. I am going to go at 7.5 here out of 10.
Hey, I was thinking that way too. Yeah, 7.5 then.
Awesome.
I
How
would
about you?
I would go with 7.5, but I can probably like bump it with a little more decimal simply because of the soundtrack. Ako, like
Mm.
Don't call
I
it a
love
comeback.
I love how I'm a big hip hop guy. So like I know Jason has a more, like diverse taste in music. When he was in that era, like in the 90s era. I was in high school in the 90s. So like hearing that, it was basically, and I would say a lot of people would have fond memories of high school unless you got bullied. So sorry, diba? Pero the soundtrack basically gives you a lot of story beats. It's not so much like Baby Driver where like the soundtrack actually advances the movie. Like it
Mm.
really like dictates the story, but this one is just so nice. And I have to agree that we're around the 7.5 range. It's not yet a bit of an 8. It's definitely not an 8.5, but yes, that's the rating I think that we three would probably have. We share the same sentiments.
Awesome. Well, the next time I think all of us will be in a podcast, I think it will be to discuss The Flash.
What?
Yeah.
What movie? What movie?
Well, that's going to come out soon. And again, my final words on Transformers Rise of the Beast is if you're thinking, would this be a movie worth watching, maybe spending your money on if you want to check it out? I would say yes. I think it's definitely worth the time, especially if this genre leans a little towards more what you want, the action, the like what Glenmarc said, the soundtrack. And again, if you guys are gonna watch it somewhere, watch it at SM Cinemas. Jason, Flash, thank you so much for joining me today, guys, and hope to see you both soon on this podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you.